gonna get emotional, man, because I mean the big picture for me is like is truly getting to that point where you can love yourself.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
Welcome to Health in the Real World. We are here today with Sean Adams. Sean, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man.
Great. Introduce everybody to what you do. This is very unique. Haven't had anybody on the show yet who does exactly what you do. This is really cool. Introduce yourself to everybody.
All right, my name is Sean Adams. I'm the owner of Feel and Flow Health LLC at feelandflowhealth.com, and what I do is I'm a bioenergetics health coach and a certified Nest Health practitioner. And what we do as what I do as a bioenergetics health coach is we have two concepts. One is looking at ways that you charge your battery, and then we look at how is that battery running efficiently, or how efficiently is that battery running. So the main ways that we charge our battery are ways that you've heard about: oxygenation, nutrition, physical exercise, or just movement, even yoga, exposure to the sun, grounding. Those are the main ways that we kind of charge our battery up. And then we look at how are we using that energy efficiently. And what I do is assess and correct energy in living systems. And we do that with a simple scan, and then we correct in a couple of different ways. One is called infoceuticals. Another way is with this therapeutic device called a MyHealth. And if you've ever heard of Dave Asprey, he has one of those guys. He's like the king of biohacking.
Yeah. So you're almost all those things you listed, yoga, oxygenation, exercise, proper nutrition. Most people know that those are very beneficial, very helpful things, but you're almost taking it to the next step where you're sort of measuring if it's working, right? I mean, even if somebody could do all those things and still not necessarily have the full charge of their batteries, so to speak, right?
Exactly.
You're testing to see if it's working energetically.
For me, I have a history of just beating my body up. Long history of using alcohol and alcohol dependency. And so I emerged from that with a battered and bruised.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was doing everything right, and nutrition and exercise can be huge for a lot of people. But for me, it moved the needle for sure. But
yeah.
I was still low on energy. And this is what really moved the needle for me. And I was just desperate enough to try it. I was, maybe we can just get into it. I'll share my screen. This is what a scan looks like. Maybe first I'll talk about our body field, because what we're assessing is essentially our body field, and the concept of down to each atom, we have electrons and protons, which are negative and positively charged particles in motion, creating an electromagnetic field. So you can imagine we have 70 trillion cells in our body. We have these massive fields coming off of them.
So break that down real quick. I'm gonna try to get you to break it down. Like, so what do you mean by field coming off, right? The protons, right? The protons in the nucleus, the electrons spinning around it. I remember that from my chemistry class, but that's probably about it. What do you mean by field?
So when we have positive and negatively charged particles in motion, it creates an electromagnetic field. And I don't know if I can explain how that happens. That's
okay.
It's quantum physics stuff.
Yeah.
But
so the energy that's emitted creates that field, and it's that field that you're measuring with your equipment. Is that true?
And measuring blockages or distortions of those fields. And
interesting.
Yeah. So I'll throw an Einstein quote out this. It might seem like a new concept, but Einstein back in his day of 50s was talking. His one of his famous quotes was, "The field is the sole governing agency of the particle," meaning it's the stuff around the particle that's holding the information, the stuff we can't see. And it's we're getting information from stuff we can't see all the time, cell phones and
Right.
EMF,
Right.
microwave,
Right.
radio waves, all that kind of stuff. It's present. We just can't see it. And so, and I am going to quote Beth McDougall in this new documentary called Thrive 2. She says there's billions. I heard a different number, but I just heard this: billions of chemical reactions happening in each and every cell of our body every second, and it's happening in an organized manner. Right? It's
Right.
just crazy. You can't even fathom that.
Right.
And there's some coordination there. What's coordinating that? She says, well, it's the field. It's how our body can communicate instantaneously, by ways of light. I mean, that could be a whole other discussion. Biophotons are DNA's emitting these biophotons, and that's a way to communicate instantaneously throughout the body. So let's go ahead.
This is
and
fascinating. This is awesome.
Yeah, I love talking about this stuff, man. So this is the scanner that people can purchase. Simple scan. And the founder of Nest Health, he studied for 35 years studying people's healthy tissues, to determine what kind of field is coming off of those tissues. And so this is testing 440 different items. And basically what this is putting off is a blueprint of a body field, what we want our body field to be.
So lift it up a little higher and turn it so we can see okay. So it looks like a mouse.
Looks like a big mouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you hold that up, you put it on one area. How do you do it?
You just put your hand on the scanner,
and it's measuring the whole body.
And so we're in effect mixing the ideal field with my field when we do that. And it's running, testing 440 different fields in my body, seeing if you're in resonance with the system.
Interesting. Very cool.
And then you get a printout, which I'll share right now.
So this is something like that little mouse reader thing. That's something that people would purchase, and then you can do this test on yourself every single day. Is that how it works?
The protocol is anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
So
every day is overkill, is what you're saying?
Yeah. It wouldn't be. It's not necessary.
Okay, got it.
And this tests and we correct. This is all about the assessment. The other part of bioenergetics is the correction, and we do that in 2 different ways. Maybe I'll hold off and talk about that in a minute. So these are, I'm going to go through the first maybe 5 screens really quick. We don't have too much time, but this is energy source screen. All these different ones, all these different icons up here are different screens. This is energy source. This is how we're charging our battery, like I was talking earlier. And this is actually my scan that I did last Sunday. So you can, and what we're looking at, I do want to say it's not a diagnosis of anything. I'm not a doctor. We don't treat any conditions. What we do is we support these fields in the body, and the effect is the body wanting to heal, the body wanting to detox. The body knows what to do. So there's charging the battery, and these are just basically conversations that you can have with the client. It's like the movement is an orange, and we're only looking at orange and purples as priority. Everything else is standard deviation.
So does that mean, so like where it's oxygenation, is that low? So you had low oxygenation?
That means it was not asking for support at that time. That means
that means you're good. That means you're good on oxygenation.
It basically just means that my body field wasn't asking for oxygenation support. But there's so much benefit that we can have from movement. And it's kind of checking out these fields in the lung or the bone, because these fields in the bone can When we exercise, we compress the bone, and the bone field is created from that. I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, this is looking at circadian rhythms down here. This is looking at the big fields of the earth. Are we in line with the big fields of the earth? Because we can have a lot of benefit. Are we grounded?
So I would imagine, just from some of these assessments, I don't know what your protocol is, but I would imagine, for example, like if grounding, it shows that you're really off with grounding, would like taking a barefoot walk in the grass or in the dirt, something like that, would that be sort of a protocol that you would recommend for an individual who
Yeah,
has
absolutely.
that pop up?
This is the screen to talk about lifestyle change, and there are there is an infoceutical. I haven't really gotten into that yet, but the one of the ways that we correct are by infoceuticals, and I'll hold one up. This is one called Energy. There's another one that's called Heart. These help to correct different fields in our body.
Is that like a tincture, or what are those, or like a holistic, what are those?
Yeah, what these are is imprinted water with information. It goes on the idea of once we have structure in water, and it's a lot different than the bulk water that me and you will drink out of a glass. Once we can have structure in water, then we can imprint information, and homeopathy has been doing this for a long time.
Yep.
It goes on the idea of putting a biologically active substance in the water to get the energetic imprint into the water. Then they dilute it.
Yeah, they almost dilute it. They like dilute it until it's not even there anymore, right?
Right.
But the water, but the imprint's still in the water. And then this is like Emoto, that Japanese researcher, right? With his, and they were talking to the water and writing
Yeah.
words on the jar that the water was contained in. And when they wrote a positive word like gratitude or love, then the water would change its structure almost, right?
Yeah.
Into this very geometrically beautiful shape. And when they wrote words like you're evil and bad, and stuff like that, and then the water would shift into just like these real ugly, like misshapen forms, right? So all right,
You're
I
on
can
board.
I can kind of see the background and the foundation of what this is built on. So all right,
Our
carry on,
emotions,
carry on.
yeah, our emotions aren't nothing. They're not only contained within our bodies, but they're broadcast out to the people around us. It's Yeah, I love all this stuff. Um, so maybe I will talk about, the water is something I'll just briefly, I wrote it down, what the process they go through to imprint. They deionize spring water, which means they demineralize it. Then they add minerals from pink sea salt, potassium, and magnesium, which aids in the structuring of the easy layers of water built around the hydrophilic surfaces of the minerals. Then they ozonate the water, which cleans it and oxygenates, structures the water. Then they put it through a series of filters and bottle it. So that's the structure, and that mimics the mineralization of your blood, the internal mineral balance of your blood is basically what they do. And then they're able to, through a certain process, imprint these restorative information. So it's not like homeopathy where they're kind of poking at the body and hoping for a healing response. This is giving the body corrective information and saying, this is what we want you to act like. This is the information. This is where we want you to go. And it's like two tuning forks. If you know that concept, there's a tuning fork and there's another tuning fork of the same key. You bang one, the other one's going to start vibrating.
It'll resonate.
Without
Yeah.
any contact. So we're basically presenting the body with a very strong signal, and we sing the weak signal or whatever's asking for support.
And that happens too, like when you're singing in a choir or something, and you hit the same note or a harmonic note that somebody else is singing near you, and you can actually feel it inside of your your throat and your lungs, and like you can feel the resonance if you're on the pitch,
Yeah.
whereas if you're off by like a half step, it doesn't feel right. And not only does it not sound right, but it just doesn't feel right. And literally you hit that exact note and there's a resonance in your lungs, and it's like both yeah, it's I completely get what you mean. And with the tuning forks, absolutely.
Yeah. So
It's
this
like,
is similar, and that's just an example to help people kind of wrap their head around it, because this is a lot
mhm.
of new concepts. Let me move on and describe the other few screens briefly if we have time. The energy strength. This looks at the energetic. Let's call them energetic signatures, because they're not just a frequency. They're lots of signatures coming off of these organs and systems. And ED stands for energetic driver.
And so by signature, you mean the the energy that's actually coming off right from the protons and electrons that you're talking about, the electromagnetic field. Is that what you mean by signature?
That make up these specific organs and systems. Because,
Okay.
depending on what organ and system, they're going to have a whole different cell. They're going to have a whole different proton and neutron makeup.
And then
Um,
again, but just to break it down, we're using the word signature. You guys use the word signature. Is it seems like because everyone, when you sign your name, you have your own signature. It's different.
mhm.
Each organ, each system, right? The heart, the cell, the nerve, the circulation, the heart, that we're seeing over here is going to have its own resonance, sort of. Is it something like that?
Exactly, and I say signature just because it's more than just one frequency. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Multiple frequencies that sort of have a specific pattern to that area.
right,
Okay. This is cool.
certain code. So, on this screen, this is nothing, no priorities came up for me. Um,
So
which is
what are the ones that are like the three dots, the three yellow dots or the two green dots? What do those mean? It's a low priority or
low priority, and we just consider that standard deviation. What it tests 440 items, but it tests multiple times for accuracy. So that's why we're only concerned with orange and purple. So anything less than that means that it came back um, negative, but not that many times.
got it.
And
Cool.
all right, so moving on to the energy flow, and the developer was an expert in Chinese medicine and saw that energy um, does flow along these meridians, and it's very similar, but not exactly to the meridians. And these just look at the standard maintenance of every day the body needs to go through. So you can click on any one of these, and they have all sorts of different fields within them.
Wow.
And there's so many different links. You can see like the membrane bronchi field, has a lot to do with lung and maybe asthma. Lots of different links to all of these, and you can zoom in on some of them. And there's infoceuticals that go along with each one of these items that can help just the flow of energy in these. And EI stands for energetic integrator. You can also zoom in here, kind of look more in depth at these fields. Moving on, mind body. This blows my mind every single time. This makes it a truly holistic approach, because it looks at the different brain layers and traumatic events that may have occurred early in life or recently. The brain stem, cerebellum, medulla, cerebellum, and cerebral cortex. So whenever we have like a traumatic event, they get stored in one of these layers of our brain, and we can think of that as like a little oscillating sphere of energy. And then in that, wherever it decides to land in the brain, there's different themes. So for instance, the cerebral cortex has themes around territory and separation. So any traumatic event around territory and separations gets lodged in a specific part of the brain, and also has a link to different body parts, so that you could have physical manifestations of symptoms in that specific body part.
Wow, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Sean, let's bring it back, because we're sort of getting to the end of time, but let's bring it back to like the sort of day-to-day living, like back to the big picture, like somebody who, like you said, you were eating well, you were working out, and your energy was still low. Somebody who maybe has concerns about things like that. Uh, what is the step by step that they go through? Like, do they buy the system? Do they call you? Do they go online? Like, what is the step by step as far as how they can learn more and see if this would be a good fit for them?
Yeah, they can go to my website. I have some information that has links to learning more. You can sign up to be my client, and for a free portal to Ness Health at seanfeelandflow.com, SEAN feelandflow.com, and basically that'll give you access to a bunch of documentaries and ebooks, and if you really want to deep dive. But you can also just go to my website at feelandflow.com, feelandflowhealth.com, excuse me, and book a 15-minute free consult with me if you want to talk about this more. Otherwise, you can just sign up and be my client, purchase a scanner, and we'll scan you and get you going.
Nice. So I like to finish the show. So that's great, by the way, that you offer that 15-minute consult. I appreciate that. I like to end the show going like real big picture, right? So bigger than, health and wellness, but more like, life principles and, character development, things like that. So if you were called in to give the keynote speech at a graduation, let's say a college graduation, and you're going to talk to these 21, 22-year-olds about life, about your mindset, about some advice that you would give them, just like a minute or two, what kinds of things would you say to them?
Wow, that's a big question, man.
We're going big. We end big.
About gonna get emotional, man, because I mean the big picture for me is like is truly getting to that point where you can love yourself, and knowing what I know now about the heart and the heart field. We have these emotions, and the waves, the electrodynamic or the electromagnetic fields that are pulsed from our heart, it's like a carrier wave to all of our cells. If we have that love for ourselves, then not only are we healthy and we're sending that signal to ourselves, but we're also sending that to the people around us, and helping others heal. As man, I mean, I'm just gonna bring it back and say love, man.
Nice. And you got the quantum field emanating from the heart. That's awesome. That going back to that researcher Emoto, that Japanese man, they found that the two words that were the most valuable and created the most geometrically perfect water were gratitude and love. Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love the experiment. Yeah.
And if we can just cultivate, for anybody watching, if you guys have not heard of this at all, I mean, it blew my mind. This, I'm sure you felt the same way. It's like they proved that emotion, like literally someone was just holding a jar of water, saying words to this water, which we think like, well, water is water, it's H2O. But like you were talking about, it sort of imprints those emotions into it, which it's just fascinating. And we are, what, 70% water or more. And
even
yeah,
even more. If you look at every particle in our body, 99% water particles.
Fascinating. Yeah.
70%.
And just so everything, literally everything that you showed us with that, all the computer stuff, there's like two parts there's two responses that I have. One, it's like a lot of this is like, woo, like way over my head. I'm like, what the heck is this? But then on the other hand, I'm like, I get it. Like I totally buy that it works based on the research that I have as a foundation and coming into it. So I think this is fascinating. I definitely would love to chat with you more about it. So, but yeah, appreciate you coming on, Sean, and sharing what you do. And if anybody watching has any questions for Sean, let him know. Again, 15-minute consultation. So yeah, thanks again, Sean.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.